He's one of the most respected broadcasters in sports. Best known for the 9-time Emmy Award-winning Inside the NBA, with co-hosts Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, and Shaquille O'Neal.
We're just like four guys sitting around in a living room watching a game. A lot of times the guy who's loudest gets heard.
Much of the show's appeal lies in its offbeat, unscripted nature led by Ernie, who in another unscripted moment gave me a tutorial tying his signature bow tie.
So this is the trademark NBA bow ties here.
Yeah, this is pressure now.
That's one take.
I mean to tell you, that was ice water in the veins.
Ernie Johnson gives up a center field single to Campanella.
Ernie Johnson Sr. was a major league pitcher and later became the voice of the Atlanta Braves on TBS, giving Ernie Jr. a front row seat to baseball and a love for sports.
You go down to the field and you're hanging out in the batting cage and Hank Aaron is asking you how your Little League team is doing. It was pretty good. Good morning, now 8:25 and 40.
Ernie would follow in his father's footsteps, not in baseball, but in broadcasting, working his way up through small market stations. That's when he met Cheryl. The two married and were on their way to an idyllic life. In 1990, Ernie got his big break when TNT asked him to become the NBA host.
On the outside, it would appear that we've got it all. And I've kind of followed my script at that point. Beautiful wife, great job, a boy and a girl that we had. You know, why mess with this?
That's when the scripted life became unscripted.
Cheryl sees this ABC special on 2020 about these Romanian orphans being warehoused, especially the ones with disabilities.
I said, I think we're supposed to adopt a Romanian child. And he laughed.
She kind of shook my head at first, like, oh, then I was like, you're serious? We had told the adoption agency we're looking for a little girl under a year old, no permanent handicaps, that we could give a fresh start in the United States. Turns out the first child that she sees at an orphanage is this little boy who's almost 3.
And his legs were curled up and he couldn't speak and he was terrified of everything. And I called Ernie from Romania that night and I said, well, I saw this little boy and he doesn't meet any of the criteria, but I don't think I can live my life wondering what happens to him.
And I can hear in her voice that her heart has been moved in a way I've never seen it. I said, bring him home.
Michael Johnson came home in 1991 and was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy. Doctors said he would never talk and he would never bond with anyone.
He walked, he certainly talks, and he bonds with everybody.
Through all this, he becomes this remarkable influence on people because he's got this tremendous spirit.
2 years later, Ernie and Cheryl adopted again. And while life at home and work were busy, Ernie's career couldn't have been better. The only thing missing was church. Ernie thought it would be good for the kids. Turned out he was the one affected.
And we walk in, and within the first 2 weeks, I was getting pierced. And the more I heard, and the mere fact that I was opening the Bible at the age of 41, why have I kept this hidden away and closed for so long? And so it basically went from a me-centered existence to a Christ-centered existence.
2003 was a big year for the NBA on TNT. They would televise their first All-Star game, and Ernie couldn't have been more excited. But just days before the game, Ernie discovered something that would make 2003 a big year for all the wrong reasons.
And I'm shaving on this side, and I could see a bump that would raise when I made my face like this to do this. And I said, that's strange. I came up with a million different things that it could be. I said, it'll go away on its own. And it didn't.
So Ernie finally decided to get it checked out.
He thought it was what's called a benign parotid tumor.
But at least it alleviated your fears somewhat that it wasn't most likely cancer.
Yeah, because he used the word benign, and I was like, boom, good. He said, but if you want a second opinion, I can set that up for you.
The second opinion confirmed his worst fears. Ernie had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, an incurable but treatable form of cancer. And now he had to break the news to Cheryl and his kids.
I said, it's cancer. I mean, I don't know how else to come out and say it. I don't wish that on any person.
He was scared, and we were all scared.
Ernie sought advice from his pastor, but he really just wanted to vent.
I said, Kevin, right now, what I want to do is punch God right in the nose. Now, where are we right now? Are we trust with a question mark? And he's writing this stuff down on a brown Starbucks napkin. Are we going to trust God if? We're going to trust God when? Are we going to trust with a question mark? Or are we going to trust God, period? And we're looking at John 9. And I'm looking at Jesus and the disciples with the blind man at the side of the road. But Jesus is basically saying, you're asking the wrong thing, guys. Not why did this happen? How's my Father going to use it? And from that day on, it became my mantra. Trust God, period.
Ernie, there was a time during that process that you became resolved
Sure.
to beat this thing.
Sure.
When did that happen?
Once you're told after those tests, okay, here's what you got and here's what you're going to do, then you just put your head down and go. Then you compete.
And that's exactly what he did. Ernie's cancer battle was very public. And with a renewed trust in God, he never missed a show.
Thanks to all you guys, and thanks to everybody out there who sent me emails and letters and phone calls and everything else.
But so you know what the first thing everybody does when you first get the ball head is?
But, of course.
Yeah, baby.
Dealing with his cancer head-on through treatments, Ernie got the news in 2007 he was cancer-free. Things were back on track. But in 2011, his dad and best friend passed away. As he came to grips with the loss of his father, just 2 months later, Ernie got a call. His son Michael's life was in danger.
And she's on the phone with me, and she's got a doctor there, and she says, we need permission to intubate. We need permission to put something down his throat to help him breathe. And I said, and if we don't, and he said, your son's gonna die.
Michael was put on a ventilator. He would spend the next 9 weeks in the hospital before finally coming home. He would never come off the ventilator, so Ernie and Cheryl turned Michael's bedroom into an at-home ICU.
We're very clear he's borrowed. We want to borrow him as long as we can.
Toughest guy I know, by the way. Yeah, this kid's been through so much. We have to do everything with Michael. We've got to scratch every itch. We've got to take care of every need. And for us, there's something that is deeply spiritual there, because you wake up in the morning to serve. And while Cheryl and I have, went into the whole adoption thing saying maybe we can do something for somebody else to give them a better life. He's done more for us than we've done for him. When I see the impact Michael's had with his limited capabilities, when I look at my own personal episode with cancer, this is another page in this story that God's written for my life. When you've seen what he's done in the past, say, okay, I'm going to trust again. I'm not going to trust if. Hey, God, if this test comes back okay, you and me, we're boys. Nah, it's not a question mark, not a comma, not an if, not a when. It's trust God, period.
The nominees for Outstanding Sports Personality Studio Host are
Bob Costas, NBC MLB Network. Rich Eisen, NFL Network DirecTV.
That we pay attention, if we hadn't already, to a crime that is so often committed behind closed doors.
Ernie Johnson, TNT.
Not what happened to your glasses.
Keith Olbermann, ESPN2.
How remembered everything.
Stuart Scott, ESPN.
Timmy with his kids, me with my youngest daughter who was with me. It was one hell of a Father's Day moment.
Can't do that with the age.
Matt Vasgersian, MLB Network.
And I get the financial constraints. They're not the Giants. They don't print money like the Giants do.
And the Emmy goes to Ernie Johnson, TNT.
Wow, this is a special night. I got a sponsor. One question has dominated my Twitter feed through the first 10 days of the NBA season. Not what happened to your glasses, not did you have fun working with Shaq on NBA 2K15. The question on the minds of the Twitterverse has been, when are you going to put Chuckster to the test and see what he knows about NBA rosters with everybody's favorite game show? And the answer? Right now, it's time to play Who He Play For! This is my lovely wife, Cheryl. We've been married for 32 years, and about to become grandparents for the first time later this month. Our life is great. Let me just say something. Anytime I get mentioned with that crew of guys who do this, I'm so humbled by that. And recently been really humbled by the fact that the folks at ESPN, at E60, saw fit to profile our family, because we've adopted 4 kids and we have a child at home on a ventilator who's 26. But this is to salute ESPN for reaching out to somebody who works at another network and say, we'd like to do this. And we were blown away by that. As for this, there's only one place it belongs, and that's on the mantle at Stuart Scott's house. So if the girls could come up, please. This is not for me. Come on up. Hey, look. Look, like a lot of people in this room, I love your dad. And having gone through cancer, and he and I would text back and forth, and I would just tell him, and I'll tell Shelley the same thing, look, you may have cancer, but it doesn't have you. And you just fight, and you just lean in on people who love you. We love Stuart Scott. This is your Emmy. Please. They want to hear from you. They want to hear from you guys.
My name is Taylor Olivia Scott, and we just wanted to say how grateful we are to the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, and also to Mr. Johnson for acknowledging our father in a way that, you know, we don't understand the gravity of, because he's just our dad. But we're honored to be able to be here because he can't be here, so thank you.
I'm Sydney, and we would also like to thank our ESPN family for making sure that we could be here on this special night. It means so much to us to be able to be here to accept this award, so just thank you.
Enjoy that. Let's go. Let's go home.